Hi everyone. So I'm doing my wrap up. I'm going to try to be quick with these books because I tried filming before and it was over an hour. So yeah. So the first book I ended up listening to, this was The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This to me was heartbreaking. Several times I cried. I've been around long enough to see Britney's rise to fame and seeing her break down live on television. Now we know all of the things she has gone through. I said all this woman needs now is to be supported and left alone. I don't believe in a higher power like hers. There are times that she had said like she felt like God was there helping her. I said, but if there is a place called hell, I hope Britney's father roasts in it. Roasts. I hope he roasts on a spit. Her whole family is horrible. The paparazzi who hounded and taunted her need to be thrown in this. Kevin Federline is a scumbag piece of crap that used Britney for fame and child support. The motherfucker gets like 40 grand a month. 40 grand. $40,000. And this motherfucker's married too. How does his wife feel to be supported by Britney Spears? They're fucking scumbags. Justin Timberlake's another scumbag douchebag. And I said, hope Britney finds happiness. There were things in here that infuriated me. Often I wanted to jump through the book and wrap my hands around certain people because they treated her like dog shit. And now that I know more of her story and the things that she went through, like through the years of like the media constantly hounding her, the paparazzi, things like that, I feel a lot of empathy for her, a lot of empathy. And especially when it comes to her family, you know, I have several family members who are scumbags and don't really care about you. They would use you for money. I could see some family members of mine, if I was, you know, had a lot of money, I could see them trying to do that just so they can get their hands on my money. I could see some of my family members doing that. Not just because of a person's blood, it doesn't mean that you have to put up with their shit. You know, have several family members that I've pretty much have like, I keep at a distance, even my own fucking mother. I keep at a distance because of the years of what she has mentally put me through. The mother I had growing up is not the same woman who has taken over my mother's body. It's not the same woman. She's different now. So I don't really have a great relationship with my mom. So from Britney, it seems like her mother was very much a look the other way type of person, and that infuriates me. I know she's trying to have like a relationship with her mom and everything, but it really infuriates me that her mother did not support her, did not stand up for her. I don't care how big somebody is. I don't care how threatening somebody is. Somebody comes after my children and tries to harm them mentally or physically, you will fucking feel my wrath. You will feel my wrath. I am very protective of my kids. If somebody tries to offer me money so they can go and use my children, there's not an amount of money in the world that you can fucking offer me that I will sacrifice my children to that industry. There really needs to be laws in place when it comes to children entertainers, things like that. Britney was basically used as the cash cow from her family members. And if I could be in the room with them, I would have things to say. And they would not like them. it was very heartbreaking in certain scenes. Like, there were scenes that were very emotional and kind of like brought me to different places mentally where, you know, I could definitely empathize with certain things that she said, you know, in this book. Very heartbreaking, and honestly, you know, there were certain scenes that just made me, like I said, want to jump through the book and just put my hands around some people's necks, you know? Because that's what they deserve. They're real pieces of shit people. Scumbags. And she needs somebody who values her for her and not her money. And takes care of her, you know? Treats her with love and respect. That's what she needs. So, it was sad. It was sad. It did make me cry, and, you know, I want to hug her, you know? So, the next book I ended up reading, this one here was more of a 3 to me. This was M.L. Eliza, No Getting Ogre You. It says it's a monster romance novella. So the characters were Krug and Jacqueline. So this was an ogre and human. He lives in a cave. She ended up falling through the cave. There was a lot of miscommunication because their languages are different. He's speaking in a different language and she's speaking in, you know, English and all that stuff. So they had trouble communicating with each other most of the time. But I will say they communicated with their bodies, you know, because, oh man, this definitely was more, I'd say, erotic than romance, because they didn't know each other that long before he was putting the P in the V, you know, kind of thing, you know. They had a good time. And so, for me, it was okay. The writing was okay. I really wanted a little bit more to the, you know, a little more substance to the story, you know. But he was very sweet. He was a very sweet ogre. Treated her very well. And, yeah, I mean, I probably would check out another book by this author just to see, if I like any more stories from that author, but we'll see what happens. So, the next one, sorry, the next one, was me continuing on with the Night Huntress world. So this is Night Huntress World Book 1. So we got First Drop of Crimson by Janine Frost. Now, this one I would say is, if you were to read these books by, like, storyline, I would definitely say that you would have to put this, storyline in between book 4 and 5 of the Night Huntress series. Because in book 5 of the Night Huntress series, these characters that were in this book were already married. So I definitely would say read this one before you get to book 5 when it comes to the Night Huntress series. So we have Denise and Spade. Now, his real name is Charles. He actually is, when he was alive, he was a man with a title. I think he was like a lord or something like that. And so he doesn't go by Charles, he goes by Spade. Now, Denise has been dealing with the death of her husband. If you read the Night Huntress series before this book, you will know what happened to her husband. And so her husband was killed. And so it's been about a year since she's dealt with, you know, his death and all that stuff. She's starting to finally feel a little bit better, even though she still misses and loves her husband. When she ends up unexpectedly inviting a demon into her home. Now, a couple of her cousins were killed, and so she's kind of mourning her family members. And this demon basically said that, you know, he killed her family members and he'll kill her too. But he needs her to get in touch with her cousin Nathaniel, who is a distant relative to her from years ago. Her cousin Nathaniel has demon powers. And so she's got to find Nathaniel, and if she doesn't, the demon Rom will kill her and kill her other family members. So he brands her on her forearms, her wrists, with this demon curse. And so the longer has this like demon curse with her, the more she's like transformed into like a demon herself. And so she doesn't want to contact Cat and Bones because she doesn't want to worry them. She doesn't want to get them involved with, what's going on, and everything. She doesn't want to do that. So she gets in contact with Spade. Now, Spade, he is associated with Cat and Bones. He was friends with Bones when Bones was still a human, when Bones was Crispin. So they had gone to jail together, and they ended up getting turned into vampires. So Spade, the year before, saw Denise, and he was attracted to her, but he saw that, she was with a man, and Bones had basically told him, hey, sorry dude, she's married, kind of thing. And so he kind of like had a little thing for her for like maybe like a year or so, and maybe a little longer. And so he decides, okay, I'll keep your secret, I'll keep your secret, and I'll help you find your cousin Nathaniel, and we'll bring him to the demon. So it's basically their story of like, going through all this different stuff, and it's very much a slow burn romance. She's very reluctant to get together with him because, she lost her husband to the supernatural world, so she doesn't want to get involved with supernaturals, and plus also he's a vampire and all that stuff. So she's a little reluctant to get together with him. And then the same thing for him. He has some past trauma from years ago, so he's reluctant, to get involved with her. So it very much was like a slow burn of like their mutual attraction to each other that kind of like kept building and building and building till, point of, no return. And so I did enjoy it. I gave it a 4. Like I said, it was a little slow because it seemed like the longer the series progressed in here, the more kind of like it's more like it started off really fast paced and then it kind of slowed down. So I'm assuming all of the rest of the books are probably going to be that way, So the next book I read, I had problems with this one. So I ended up reading Surviving Scar by Ruby Dixon. This is number 2 in like her planet clone ones, it's Ice Planet clones. I gave this a 2. I very much had issues with this. So I said, I think Ruby Dixon has jumped the shark when it comes to this series. So in the last book, there was the discovery of a whole tribe of people underneath the fruit cave. And now we have all of these alien or human clones. Says I wasn't a fan of either one of these characters until the 40% of this book. Also, there was some continuity issues in this book. I said, for one, Fleur asked Vivi about her pronouns. How would Fleur know this? Fleur and the other ladies have been away from Earth for a while, and pronouns has only been around a short time in society. So Fleur mentioning that completely took me out of the story. And there were also the character of Vivi turning over a new leaf really fast, especially when it came to not wanting babies. And her mentioning that her and Scar didn't want, they didn't want the kid, that she would have the tribe raise the child. So then all of a sudden, seeing herself have a baby with Scar, within a few chapters, she was different, and I thought it was way too quick for that kind of change of heart. I liked seeing Scar's transformation with his character. He was so annoying, and some people who reviewed this book said he was like Ashtar. I would have to disagree. Ashtar was hilarious. And there was a scene in this book where Scar was mentioning Jason's human peen, you know, Jason is a clone, compared to his, you know, compared to Scar's two peens. I said that conversation was hilarious, especially when Ashtar was in the conversation. I said, so Ashtar and Scar were similar in the beginning, but Scar really doesn't have much of a personality because Ruby Dixon didn't give him much of one. So here's my problems with the whole pronouns thing. So, about 23% into the book, Fleur says, for now, it's Vivian, okay? Is a female pronoun okay? Or would you prefer something else? It's nice that she asks. I appreciate that. Maybe Vivi instead. That feels a bit more me. I pause and then add. And female. Yes, definitely female. Vivi then. Got it. So, Vivi doesn't know her name. She has fragmented memories because she is a clone. She's not the original source, you know, original human. So she had to come to terms very quickly that she is a clone. She's not who she has thoughts of. And she doesn't remember her name. So I think it's Fleur, one of the ladies calls her Vivian, or we're going to name her Vivian. So she doesn't feel like that title fits her, so she decided to shorten it to Vivi. The problem I have with the pronouns thing is, like I said, continuity. For the fact that these ladies have been on this planet for many years. I'm talking Fleur and the ladies that were in pods too. They've all been on this planet for years. And before that, they were in pods, sleeping. So who knows how long they were out in space? You know, they could have been out in space for many years. And so you're talking Fleur is going to know about pronouns and using the proper pronoun for this female clone. It doesn't add up to me. It just doesn't add up. How would Fleur know this? It's not like you're getting communication from the Earth world. You're on this other planet. You're telling me somebody who's new to the planet knows pronouns and told people about pronouns? Why would people on this planet give a shit about other people's pronouns? If this person looks like a man, they're a he. If this person looks like a woman, it's a she. You automatically have pronouns. As soon as you're born, you have pronouns. If you want a specific pronoun, you have to let people know you want a specific pronoun. Like if you want to be called elf self or whatever heck else pronouns are out there. You have to tell people that. People are not going to assume that you want to be called this. Like if I see somebody that looks like a woman, but they want to be portrayed as a male, and I say she, that person shouldn't get mad at me for saying she because they look like a woman. You know, they could easily correct me and say, I want to be called he. And then I'd be saying, okay, I'm sorry, I will try. Most times, I'm not going by people's pronouns because I don't know. So I usually will say, oh, Becky is over there. Becky, she likes pizza. That type of thing. If I'm not sure about somebody's pronouns, I'm not trying to offend people. But we're not going to automatically assume that you have a specific pronoun. We don't read fucking minds. So to me, like I said, it kind of irritated me with the whole pronoun thing for the fact that it's like, this is a new thing. And now you're writing a story that's a continuation of a other previous two series. You're now into the third series of this continuation. And you're telling me that Fleur is going to know pronouns. That does not add up. It doesn't add up. Whether or not that offends you or not, it doesn't add up. So that bothered me. And I was like, that don't make any sense. So the other thing that kind of bothered me is there's a scene in here where Vivi, and you're talking like 44% of the book, this is about where I actually started to like the book a little bit more, because I really disliked it. I was almost at the point where I wanted to DNF the book or give it 1 star. So Vivi is making out with Scar. And, obviously he wants her because, he wants to mate with her. But he's, obviously had to get to know her and get to know, like, her culture a little bit more, and different things that we do as a society when it comes to dating and stuff like that, She wanted to get to know him more, before going forward. And so he was like basically saying, well, you're inebriated, you're inebriated, so I can't go forward with you. And I'm thinking to myself, how would he know that? Because there's different cultures out there in the world, there's different cultures when it comes to our planet. And there are some cultures, they don't care if you're drunk. They're going to take advantage of you anyway. I mean, years ago, there were different actors in the industry that would liquor ladies up and take advantage of them. There were a lot of, men back in the day that was an acceptable thing. Now it's not, now that isn't acceptable. So to me, I was like, how does he know this? Was he told by the Masaka off page that we don't know that, oh, don't take advantage of her? How would he know this? He's a splice. He hasn't been around really much of women, He's always been a fighter. He's a gladiator. He fights with other people. So how is he going to know all that stuff? So that to me didn't make any sense. So there was a scene in here that I thought was hilarious. This was probably my favorite part of the book. I have to edit a little bit because, YouTube and all that stuff. So Scar has 2 peens. He's like a lizard hybrid thing. He has 2 peens. Jason is a human clone on this planet. So he's talking to Jason. So he says, Jason, are human peens puny? Jason sputters after Ashtar immediately turns to human again, discarding the large slab of rock and letting it land with a heavy thud on the beach. His face is wreathed in an amused grin. Sorry, I've got to hear this. What's this now? So Ashtar had turned into his dragon form. He's Draconi, I think that's what it's called. Turned into his dragon form because he was helping the men, helping Jason and helping Scar build homes. Build like these little houses, little huts. And so they're trying to find rock and different things like that they can use. So Ashtar is in his dragon form trying to lift up this heavy stuff. And when he hears the conversation, he morphs into a human and he's like, what's this now? It was funny. I busted up laughing at that part. And then Scar says, you are large enough. I know I am large enough. I am curious if Jason's peen is tiny. If all human males are under-equipped. What the fuck, bro? Jason puts his hands on his hips. Are you asking me to pull my peen out and compare with you? I shrug and start to undo my belt. I would not mind that. I'm merely trying to understand if it is the size of my peens, that is the problem, I point out. Jason blinks. I'm sorry, did you say peens? I did. I think I found out the issue, Jason smirks. You really have 2 peens. Of course, I am a Sethri spice. I fail to see where this is strange. I thought that was so funny. I was laughing at that scene where he's talking to Jason, who's human, you know, because he wants to get to know his female more. And like, what is she like? Is she intimidated because I have 2, you know, she kind of like got freaked out a little bit and ran away, you know? So he's like, you know, is it like too big? You know, is it, you know, all that stuff. So they kind of have this conversation. It was just funny to me. So the thing I didn't like is I really disliked that she was another heroine that had this miscommunication with him. That it's like, I understand if you don't really want to mate with this person and your quees are basically telling you, but you know, you have to let this person know about what your culture does, what your culture, you know, what do you do as like dates and stuff like that, without giving him an attitude and getting mad at him, you know? And that's the thing that irritated me about her, is like a lot of times she was very mean to him, and it took a while for her to kind of warm up to him and like explain to him certain things. And I was like, he doesn't know this. He's a different culture. He's a different species. You have to teach him this stuff. So it irritates me when you get like a heroine that's like, you know, giving him a hard time. And so she goes and, well, he goes and he says, I am stunned. I pride myself on my cleverness, and yet I have missed this entirely. I thought she wished for me to leave her alone because I was not worthy of her attentions, that I should work harder to become worthy, but we have clearly misunderstood each other, and in doing so, I have wounded her, made her think I did not care. I said, no, it's not up to the male to read this freaking woman's mind. I said she should have told him her wants and needs. Instead, she had him guessing. Her being shy is no excuse for the miscommunication. And so she says, it's me that's not communicating my needs. For all that he looks and acts very human sometimes, I forget that he doesn't think like us. When the crowd is turning against you, you lay low. And I'm like, no shit, lady. I'm like, oh, that irritated me. It really irritated me with her. And it's like, you know, it was that excuse of like, well, I'm shy, I'm introverted. And I'm like, oh, bullshit. Bullshit. I am more introverted. But it doesn't mean we lack communication. We just don't like to be around people. That's the thing with me. I don't lack communication. I can communicate with people perfectly fine. My energy gets drained very quickly when I'm around a lot of people. And I get really irritated because I'm a lot of times around stupid people. So that's where my frustration lies, is that I get very irritated quickly with people. And I don't want to be around them. But I have no problem at communicating with people. You know? So this is the thing that irritated me about her. It's like, I don't care if you're a fucking hermit. You should know how to communicate properly with people. You have to communicate with other humans. You're a human. You have to communicate with other humans. That's how life is. You got to learn those communication skills. If you don't, you look like an asshole. So, the last part really irritated me. So she says, Floor told me that the healer can stop resonance, but it doesn't feel good. That would mean no baby and no link between us except for what we choose. Or if we decide to have the baby, but we're not ready to be parents, we can give our child to someone else to raise. It sounds callous, but if you're not going to be a good parent and I'm not ready to be one, we might want to consider it. So she goes and says to him that thing, like, oh, we should consider, if we do have a baby, to give it to the tribe to raise. Not that they don't have a fucking ton of responsibilities. But it really irritated me because I'm like, I know there are going to be women out there that don't want to be mothers. I get it. You don't want to be a parent. But sometimes you're thrust with a responsibility that you didn't ask for, but you now have. And your responsibility is making sure you keep that human alive, fed, cared for, and not take it out on the kid. I have seen people out there in the world that I feel should have never been parents because of the way they treat their kids. I don't care if you're like, I didn't really want to be a parent. Well, you're a fucking parent now. So pull up your big girl fucking panties, your big boy panties if you're a man, and get the fucking job done. Do the job you are assigned. If you decide to have sex with somebody and you're not using protection, stuff happens. So to me, I had that responsibility of taking care of 2 children under the age of 2. And for me, I took on that responsibility. I knew what I had to do as a parent. I'm a parent now. I have to take care of these children. So I don't like the whole thing of like, we'll just give it to, almost like adoption, where I'm like, I'm just going to give up the kid because I don't want to be a parent. I understand that, there are people out there who give up their kids because they feel like maybe they won't be a good parent to them. They won't be, maybe they don't have the means, that type of thing. I can understand that. But we're on an alien fucking planet. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. This isn't Earth. This is an alien planet. You can have this is the thing about the tribe. You can have the other tribe help you out. For sure. Because that's the one thing you do get on this planet. That's the thing I liked about this planet, is that you have these group of people that they all have a job. They all have some type of job that keeps them, whether, like they're really good at doing this. Like maybe you got people who are hunters and they like to track their food and they like to bring the food back and everyone gets to enjoy the food. And you're the one that's a part of that. You're the one that brought that food to your tribe people, all the people who are in your group. You get to feed people, Everyone has a responsibility. Everyone has a job. That's the thing I like about the series, is everyone does have that. But then you go and you want to push this responsibility onto others because you don't feel like at that time you think you'd be a good parent. When I got pregnant, I was like, man, I hope I'm a good mom. I know I want to be a better mom than my mom was. I know I want to raise my children differently than how my mother raised me and my sister. That's the one thing I want to do. So I've been striving every day, every year to try to do better than how my mom was. To teach my children differently. That's the only thing you can do. So you either strive to be the parent that your parent was, or you strive to be different than how your parent was. It all depends on how you're raised. I wish that I had a mother that, I'm envious of certain women that have like a really good relationship with their mother. But because I don't have that relationship with my mother that way, this is why I want my kids to have that relationship with me. I want them to come to me with their needs or their wants or their concerns. I want them to come to me and trust me with their thoughts. So with this here, it just really infuriated me with different things that she was doing. And then Ruby Dixon kind of made it look like, oh, because she's shy and she's introverted. And I'm like, bullshit. That is not what a fucking introvert is. I'm sorry, but that's not what an introvert is. You don't abandon everything around you because, oh, you're shy. You just want to be by yourself. No, I take care of my kids. I take care of my kids. I do the things that I'm supposed to do as their parent. You know, and even if I wasn't biologically connected to my children, I'm taking care of little humans. So that way they are a decent citizen in society and they're not committing crimes and they're not being a bad person. I'm doing my best to make sure when my children go out there in the world, they are productive members of society. So for me, it's like she had all these people around her that would help her. You know, even if you think like, I'm not going to be a good parent, you will have like other people around you on that planet to help you, to guide you, you know, or have a break and give the kid off to another person to take care of for a little while. Not everyone is maternal. I get that, you know, not everybody is. Same thing with like men. Not all men are maternal, you know. Not all men have that connection to their children, but you should form a connection to them because they're the ones that are going to choose your retirement home. So for me, it's like, you know, you have a job, you do it to the best of your ability. Even if you don't like the job, you do it to the best of your ability. So for me, it's like, you know, if I was offered the opportunity to raise other children, yeah, I would be doing the best I could, even if they were not mine. So for me, it really bugged me because I'm like, we're not on Earth here, you know, where you can go and give up your child for adoption and things like that, you know, or have family members raise your kid and all that stuff. You're on an alien planet, you know. It's kind of a different thing, you know. So it just irritated me. So the last book is, I ended up giving this a 3-star. So it's The Vampire in the Bookstore by L.M. Drew. So the characters are Declan and Rosamund. I said for a book that was a novella, this felt long. I said the author has a way of drawing out the scenes to the point where it was boring and exhausting. I said Declan is a centuries-old vampire with a love for old books, and he meets his match with a mortal woman named Rosamund. Now, like I said, the way this author's writing is it felt very drawn out. I am going to try reading another book by this author because I did read, like, she had a short that was for that one creepy anthology, you know, the Creepy Court anthology I read. I liked that. I liked the short. This one here, like I said, it was a novella, but I felt like it was very drawn out to the point where it was boring to read. It was really boring. I was like nodding off, you know, reading it because it just wasn't holding my interest. And so you have like these characters that meet at the bookstore. She technically already knows he's a vampire. She's kind of figured it out. And so they have this connection with each other. And so he's like, oh, he wants to turn her. He wants to have her for himself, like, you know, forever, for eternity. It was okay. But like I said, it felt very drawn out. There were things in the writing style I didn't really like. So I'm thinking maybe like I'm going to try out another book, because sometimes when people like first step into like writing books and stuff like that, sometimes their books are not that good. And then as, you know, the more they write and stuff, the more like, you know, maybe critiques they listen to, the better that they can become, you know. And then there's some authors I think that just kind of like they start off good, you know, but then they kind of peter out as their career progresses. It's like they kind of, you know, can't think of like any other stories to do, or they get impatient or whatever it is. Some authors I feel like kind of over the years they kind of got worse as a writer. And then there's ones that have gotten, you know, have improved with their writing. They've gotten better. But yeah, there's that. There's one book I will say that I DNF'd, and my reasons for DNFing them was mainly I'm really irritated when I get recommended books lately where they say it's a romance, and I'm like, this isn't romance. This is more of a, this is erotica. It's more erotica. Because within the first chapter, there were two characters, because it was supposed to be like a three, you know, like menage a trois, you know, one chick and two dudes. And within the first chapter of this book, one guy was going down on the other. And I'm like, within the first chapter, and I'm like, this is too quick. I'm sorry. It's too quick. It's more erotica. I'm not into that. I'm just not into like erotica. It's just not my thing I can get into anymore. It really annoys me and bores me, and I can't get into it. I would rather read books where either sex is like toward the end of the book or no sex at all. I'd rather read that over erotica. I just can't really get into a lot of the erotica anymore. It's just all sex first, you know, and that's all that really I see. And it's boring. It's boring to me. I just don't want to read stuff like that anymore. I just, you know, if you're young and you're really into it, great, but I can't get into it. So I'm like, don't recommend me romances where it's like there's like sex within the first chapter. I can't get into it. But yeah, that's it for this month here for reads. I'm really hoping December will be a little bit better. We'll see what happens, but I kind of feel like I feel a bit exhausted. I've been taking some breaks away from reading for a little bit and maybe like doing other things. Like I've been painting more lately, and doing other things with my time. And reading's kind of been on the back burner for me because I just haven't been enjoying like what I've been reading lately, and different things, like different authors that I found comfort in. I'm not really finding that comfort anymore. I kind of feel like some of these authors are changing too much to the TikTok crowd, and I'm just like, I'm not into those TikTok books at all. I'm actually shocked if I find out a book that I like and I'm like, oh, well, it first was like really hyped up on TikTok. If I actually end up really liking a book from TikTok, it's a shock, because most of those books, they're all like sex first and relationship last. That's just not my thing. I just can't get into it. So I'm like, if I'm going to read a romance, I'd rather read something. I'm at the point where I'm like, I'd rather read something where maybe it's got sex off page, or there's really not much sexual stuff, you know, and it's definitely more of a romance. I want to see that romance. I want to have those, you know, you want to have those butterflies in your stomach. And that's how I felt when I've had different romances I've read where I'm like, it's made me so happy reading the book, you know. And lately I just haven't found that happy place for me, you know. And so yeah, it's a bummer that this month it really just, you know, I haven't enjoyed a lot of the books this month. So yeah, it happens. You know, you win some, you lose some. I'm hoping December will be a little bit better for me. If not next year, I can go into like January being, you know, better. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I will see you all in the next video. All right. Bye.